The South African Local Government Association says little has been done to stop political killings in KwaZulu-Natal. Several councillors and regional leaders have been gunned down in recent weeks and years, adding to an already long list of others. SALGA says it's concerned that the recommendations of the Mosery Commission looking into a string of assassinations have still not been implemented.
We once again call on the police and the Premier of KwaZulu-Natal to stand up and fight this scourge before it is too late. They must arrest it. It is shocking that the Mosery Commission findings and recommendations which shed some light on the underlying reasons for political killings largely remain unimplemented. As the election season draws near, SALGA urges the Honourable Premier to not only make a call for peace and tolerance, but to commit to remove red tape that disallows the protection of councillors. The number of councillors that have been assassinated, there are 19. A motor accident, only 3. Natural cause, only 17. Suicide, 2. Out of 39 councillors who have passed on within this very short space of time. In reported instances, the management of some municipalities has been taken hostage and forced to sign agreements before they were released. Nationally, in the past 2 years, 167 councillors have been replaced due to death, with 40% being ward councillors and 60% proportional representative councillors.
All right, let's get you the IEC's take on this. Joining us is Deputy Chief Electoral Officer Mawethu Mosery. So it's great to talk to you as always. Thanks very much indeed for coming on. Of course, this is an area of concern for all of us at any time in our history, but particularly in an election year.
Good afternoon. Indeed, in an election year, it is incidents of concern, and particularly if the investigators can get to the bottom of each incident and give us a political reason for it having occurred. So that would be of concern, and we do need a pure, almost environment for the elections to take place. It guarantees us free and fair elections if we can have an election environment without loss of life, without intimidation, coercion, and such other negative conducts in the environment of elections. So we are indeed concerned as the Electoral Commission.
And as the Electoral Commission, do you concede that that is most likely going to be an impossible ask in many areas of the country, and perhaps particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, this pure environment that you talk about for having elections, just given the number of councillors killed in KZN? That's only since 2021, at the very high number of 19 people losing their lives. Of course, we know that number is much higher the further back we go.
And it will remain a matter of concern. It doesn't make it an impossible environment for the elections to take place. Obviously, if we look back to the Constitutional Court findings on the freeness and the fairness of the election in 2021, that test is now in the way the court interpreted it, depending on the circumstances and the environment at that point in time. So we will have to look at all of that before we make the pronouncement on the freeness of this election. At this stage, we do not have areas in KwaZulu-Natal or anywhere else in the country which have been rendered impossible for free political campaigning, areas where it is not possible to hold a fair electoral process. So at this juncture, we are continuously doing all the necessary activities to prevent any form of conflict and to ensure that the environment remains as free and as good for a fair election as possible.
What would those measures be? It's obviously not going to be business as usual, so to speak, in these hotspot areas. What would those measures be to try and make it as free and fair as possible?
Certainly, it's not going to be an easy feat. On our side, we've invested first on our internal capacity to ensure that we do things by the book, professionally and effectively, and basically assuring the citizens and political parties who are contestant of fair treatment when it comes to electoral process. The second thing we've done is that we've put people in place to monitor political developments. We have 250 of them across the country who are interacting with political parties and ensuring that they can intervene timeously. And we call them people who manage environments that have tensions. And part of that is the time we spend at the political liaison committees, where we share factual, correct information with political parties to ensure that doubt is removed, any elements of party leaders having doubt about the process or feeling they are not being treated fairly is then dealt with at the party liaison committee level. Thirdly, we continue our engagement with the security establishment of the country, and so far the planning, the detail they have provided to us, we are satisfied that they are taking care in ensuring that they secure the election process and citizens are able and free to go out there and participate in the election. But more importantly, KwaZulu-Natal has a special committee that is chaired by our provincial electoral officer together with the MEC for Community Safety, which is a multi-party committee focusing on dealing with areas of conflicts and tensions between political parties. And what remains a challenge for us, as to an extent, this committee plus the security establishment, is when conflict that leads to violence or even assassinations is within a political party. That remains a very difficult environment for us to manage.
I understand that, in your position at the IEC, you have to paint a picture of the IEC being in control of the situation, right? But this is an incredibly important election. It's being described as a watershed election for our country, perhaps as important as 1994. The stakes are incredibly high. How is the IEC feeling, for lack of a better term? But what is the sense of the IEC insofar as being on high alert for these kinds of issues in the build-up to the election and for the poll itself?
Yes, we are fairly alert of this, and if you note my earlier submission to yourselves here now was that we're spending a bit more time on prevention of conflict or reasons for conflict. And the time we are spending with political contestants attest to that. We are currently taking seminars, workshops to political parties on how to participate, who can participate. Those start to remove any doubt or issues that should cause conflict. We have also taken the code of conduct out there in preparation of candidate nomination. So those are some of the things that we do in prevention. And to a large extent, it then also hangs on how our own personnel conduct themselves when we manage the elections. And we've done sufficient preparation on that scope. The other side is public education, which also includes the kind of education we do with young voters, with also some of the activists in political parties. That's the kind of investment as the Commission we could do actively and proactively towards preventing these kinds of conditions. But in the event there's an infringement of the code, obviously there should be consequences, and the infringements on the code can begin with even attacks on the integrity of the commission itself or the electoral process that is not substantiated and supported with evidence. Those kinds of things should be done away with in order for us to have a credible election. Indeed, working with the security establishment, cases of this nature, we ensure that they are dealt with swiftly, including the whole judiciary process and mechanism to deal with these matters swiftly.
All right, Deputy Chief Electoral Officer at the IEC, Mosery, thanks very much indeed for joining us this afternoon.